Hello and welcome to the Cabin Boy Knits Woolcast, coming to you deep from the Canadian forest.
This is Christopher.
And this is the other guy,
Jamie.
We're going to take you along on a road trip to New Brunswick.
This includes the historic Acadian territory and a yarn shop in Bouctouche.
We're also going to visit the iconic Briggs Little. And we have a hat pattern book to talk about as well, which is generating a lot of buzz.
There are finished objects and works in progress.
And I'm going to talk about my woolly underwear. So sit back, grab your favorite drink, and we'll tell you our stories.
So to start with, I want to say bonjour mes amis et bienvenue encore une fois.
And welcome new friends. We are going to be talking about our trip to New Brunswick, which was fantastic. It was really, I think, completely different than what I expected.
I expected it to be just as I saw it, only I never
Really?
did see it. It was the first time.
Well, how's that possible? Oh, so, were you surprised by anything when we were
I
in
was
Brunswick?
shocked by a lot of things because when we travel, you know, I don't like previews. Just like when I watch a movie, I don't want to see the previews because I want to see the real thing firsthand. The one thing I was surprised, which we'll talk about later, is I was surprised by the French.
Yeah, the amount of French. Well, it's the only bilingual province in Canada.
Yes, it was because the official language, French language, was recognized in 1969, where I thought that, Canada was an officially bilingual country. I mean, we have two official languages, but I don't understand the very discrepancy about it being a province that was is formally bilingual.
Yeah. So, what were your top three surprises of New Brunswick?
I don't have a top three. I don't know.
We said one of them was language.
Because I knew that I have neighbors that go way back, my neighbor's friends for over 40 years. Her dad is from New Brunswick, from Gaspé, and Gaspésie, the area, but he's New Brunswick, and he's very French. I mean, he could barely speak English, and I thought that there was just maybe like a small little area, or there were just very few French speaking. I didn't realize there are huge French communities who, some of them could still, to this day, keep their language, their culture, and they could barely speak English. And I was shocked by all of that because I didn't even realize that.
I was surprised at all of the green. Like when we were driving along the highway, and there was forest everywhere. It was so beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful province, and all the moose signs. Well, there were moose signs all down the highway. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. But that's kind of like Ontario too.
It is.
But it's very much I think the landscape's very similar, although we have a lot more lakes, and they have a mountainous region. Is it the Adirondacks that are north?
Well, they have the Northumberland Strait as well on the other side.
Yeah, and
they've got a lot of waterfront.
And I think it's something like, is it like 80% woodland? Something like that.
Wow.
It's huge. The percentage is huge of woodland because you have the cities. They're focused around the rivers and the waters and the mouths of the St. Croix River and the St. John River.
Yeah.
But as you go inland more, it's very, very forested. So along the highways, the rolling hills and forest, I was very surprised by the landscape. And it's just continuous, massive, massive land.
Gorgeous. And the other thing I was surprised about was Fredericton. Fredericton is gorgeous. It's a beautiful town. I felt so comfortable in that town. It was just beautiful.
It's very historic.
Very historic, beautiful buildings. And that was our first stop. So it was 11 and a half hours away from where we live now.
It was.
And but we stopped off in Quebec for a night and then continued on to Fredericton and spent the night. And then we were heading over to Moncton.
Moncton, yes.
And these are all places that I'd read about but never been before. So I was quite excited to see Moncton as well.
Awesome.
Where else?
We lucked out when we were in Moncton because you went on a trip, or not a trip, but a.
Remind me.
When we were in Moncton, we went past the theater, and they were giving free shows, or free views of the theater, and you went on that.
Yeah, the tour. Well, yeah, because there was somebody standing on the side. She's like, "Hello, welcome," in French as well, and I thought, oh, okay. And then we thought it was just an art exhibit, so we thought, oh, there was a fantastic art exhibit.
Yeah.
But what it was the 100th anniversary of the theater, and there were photos of over the years of the renovations and historically, and I think there may have been, I don't know if there was a fire or if just they renovated. I think
there was a fire. Yes.
Yeah. And then, but part of the tour, it had already started, and they, I just begged and pleaded with her, and she let me go in. She goes, "Let me just give you a moment." And we snuck in. And so
I think she saw the glitter in your blue eyes, and she said yes.
Knew that I loved history, and I wanted to get in that theater because I
She
knew
could
it would
tell.
be spectacular. These turn of the century, last century theaters that are from the 1800s. Beautiful gold gilded, so ornate. And there was an actress in one of the balconies, the small little balconies.
Wow.
And the tourists were the people on the stage. So she was talking like she was doing this whole performance where she was they were almost part of the cast, but she did this whole, and then there was music and everything. It was beautiful.
That's fantastic. That's really nice. And I loved it. I thought the town was great. And I also really enjoyed seeing the Terry Fox runners when we were running, when we were just looking out at the river, and we saw a group of runners, pack of runners run through, and I forgot it was Terry Fox Day.
Exactly, and that's a huge event in Canada and across the world.
Yeah.
But you lose track of days and time and the actual date. But yeah, and that was right along that river, and that was fantastic because at high tide the river comes in, and I don't even know which river that was now. Come to think of it.
Well, I will flash it on the screen for everyone.
It was one of the main rivers, but we were on this lookout, just admiring this, and of course it's all this red earth, red mud. But at low tide, it just looks like mud. And the river looks like a river of mud. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, must be a special occasion. There were so many runners, and so it was nice to see a huge turnout for that. It warms my heart. Terry Fox.
Yeah, and we covered that in our Thunder Bay
yes,
episode.
Absolutely.
So if you want to know more about Terry Fox, so just head over to our Thunder Bay episode, and we see the statue of Terry Fox, where he stopped his run, and we talk about the history of that.
And then I also remember a coffee shop because I was like baiting, and I thought, could I ever use a latte? Where will I ever find a coffee shop that's open? Because everything seemed to be closed. And then where we stopped,
I don't know why I'm blushing already, because we went in and there was
a cutie pie,
the lovely barista in the store from Saint Pierre.
That's right.
Nicolon.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yes, and it was just one of those quaint little shops, coffee shops. What do you call it? Like not a chain, just a what do you call it? Independent little shop, and Saint Pierre et Miquelon. And that's a whole another story.
Because you asked about his French. You asked about his accent.
Yeah, an accent. And they're there are variations of French accents. My accent's very different than Quebecois. Quebecois is very different than France. Mine is closer to France than Quebec, but it's also Northern Ontario. And he had a little bit something different about his accent. Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon are two tiny little
tattoos.
islands. Did he say he was cute? He was charming. Two tiny little islands in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, which are still French territory to this day, and it's fascinating. And I won't get into the history because I don't really know it. I know a bit of it because I started reading the book about it.
I'm sure you will. No, by the next episode,
we were in this bookshop a few years ago, and I came across, there were historical books, and there was a tiny little book on Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon Islands, and I never understood how those tiny little islands in the middle of the Gulf of St. Lawrence were French territory. And on our trip, we thought of going. I thought, I would love to go there.
Yeah.
But it was something like 8 hours on the ferry. I thought it looked like, we just got to cross this little bay here and across the Gulf of St. Lawrence. They're just there. Not so.
What are you worried about? There's a hurricane on its way too.
Could you imagine? We'd have been in the middle of that freaking ocean, entry to the St. Lawrence. Anyway, he was from Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon.
I was wondering when we were getting back to the barista. So we went in to get coffee.
I got coffee
and a snack. However, you did not carry your coffee. You carried the snacks. And we had to go across this little highway to get to where we were parking. And so I was carrying the drinks. And I was also wearing my woolly underwear. And my woolly underwear is phenomenal. I love it so much because we took it on our trip to Costa Rica. We took it on the trip to the East Coast.
All the underwear he ever wears now.
And it's fantastic. It's got amazing qualities to it, and it keeps you cool all the time and keeps your boys
we already know
comfortable as well.
We talked about
but we didn't talk about the underwear though, because here's the thing: there's only one negative to the underwear. Might as well show it. So there's only one negative.
Have they been washed since you wore them?
It doesn't matter because it's microbacterial qualities. Get rid of the smell. That's why I take them on big trips.
Antibacterial.
Sorry, antibacterial.
They don't produce bacteria; they're antibacterial qualities to that wool that it has. So
yeah, a little bit of a difference.
They're not stanky. So he said.
Anyway, this is a clean pair.
So apparently,
I washed it a couple months ago. It's very clean. No, they're clean. Anyway,
they're soft. They're comfy.
So the only one negative about it.
Warm.
The positives greatly outweigh the negatives, unless you're carrying 2 cups of coffee in front of a cute barista. So you were carrying your bags of the food because it's close to your heart, cookies and stuff. I'm carrying the 2 cups of mine was tea, yours is coffee. We had to run across this highway. And so I'm holding them, and the underwear is really slippery. And so
was it working its way down?
It was working its way down, and I had my belt on, but I didn't have it tight enough. And so it started working as I was crossing, holding the cups of tea and coffee. My shorts started sliding down all the way past, too far. And so I ended up waddling across, waddling across the street with the cars looking at me. And carrying the 2 cups. So that was the only downside. But the positives outweigh the downside. But I will say, I am 100% converted to wool underwear. It is incredible.
Well, it's the miracle fiber, so they say.
And it's microbacterial. No, but it's amazing.
Do you have anything important to talk about today?
Well, this is wool related.
It's wool related.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, they said soft. You sure you watched this? Okay. And
okay. So after that, we needed to fuel up because we were.
No, wait. What underwear were I wearing?
I don't know. I didn't look. So we were headed to Bouctouche.
Yes, Bouctouche.
Did I say it correctly? Bouctouche?
Yes, that's exactly how you say it.
Okay. And because we were on our way to a yarn shop. And this yarn shop, people have been suggesting that we go visit. And so I'm so happy we did that. But Bouctouche
was on the list. It was on the to-do list.
It was on my must-see list. And that's also the center of Acadia territory.
It is. And, at the time I didn't realize it. Because I know she mentioned Bouctouche, and I was telling her, the first thing I was telling her was how surprised I was. I thought, how this whole community is so French. And everywhere you go, they speak French first. And even in Ontario, there are thousands and thousands of French Canadians, Franco-Ontariens, in my province of Ontario, in my hometown north. But not like here, because we can all speak both languages. And even myself, I never spoke French first. It's my first language, my mother tongue. But out in the community, there are very few who just speak. Well, you hear a lot of French people not as French as New Brunswick, where some can barely speak a word of English. Interesting, and I loved it. I love that fact. They kept their culture after all these years.
That's I think that's one of the other things I loved about New Brunswick. I loved hearing all the French, and I loved. I thought that was great.
Signs in French and everything in French, and that's because of the official French language.
But it really has an impact on the culture.
And Bouctouche and the whole area being the center of Acadia, as you mentioned, and Acadia there's a history there that goes way back.
Do you know what Bouctouche is? A Micmac. It's from the Micmacs, and so I think. Oh, the other thing about Bouctouche is that on January 1st, 2023, the name has changed.
What do you mean?
It's Grand Bouctouche.
Oh, did they amalgamate or something?
I think so. I don't know. If anybody knows that, we're happy to know a little bit more about that. But I think it was a January 1st, 2023.
Is there Grand Bouctouche? I wonder if there's a Petit Bouctouche. And some of the other names, because this was going back in the Algonquin language, but it's also the Micmac.
Yeah.
And the three indigenous First Nations peoples from the area: the Micmac, the Maliseet, and the how do you say it now? Passamaquoddy.
Should we do a lifeline call to Geneva?
No, I have it here.
Okay, but the other thing I just didn't finish on this was I didn't tell you what it meant in Micmac.
No, you didn't. And the last one was Passamaquoddy.
Okay. Yeah, so back to the name of
Bouctouche.
Is Grand Bouctouche. It's Great Little River. And on that note,
someone's calling.
That was my daughter Geneva on the phone, and she did tell me that I was mispronouncing Micmac. It's actually Mi'kmaq.
Yes, but because it's spelled with an AC at the end or sometimes a K, you think you pronounce it, but that's the correct pronunciation.
What a coincidence, though.
I know, the phone rang and there it was. A lifeline. And also Passamaquoddy, which I was saying correctly. And Passamaquoddy plays an important role in the history of Acadia.
Oh, wow. That's where we're headed now. And that brings us back to Bouctouche.
Bouctouche.
And to La Violette. Which, do you know why it's called La Violette?
Do you?
Yes.
La Violette. I'm feeling like La Violette. There might be a song there. What do I remember? La Violette.
Well, the flower is the provincial flower.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
La Violette. I'm thinking there's a song in there somewhere. There's more to that. Well, there'd be a reason why the violet,
there probably
would
is
have been. There's got to be more connection to why it's the flower.
Yeah. So we had mentioned that this was on our to-do list that we wanted to see, and I started to research the store, but there were a number of people who said you have to go to the store if you're going to PEI. Make sure you drop into the yarn shop, and so I started following them on Instagram and got to know a little bit more about it, and thought, we definitely have to stop here because the store looks great. And so it is owned by Manon. And she started it. She was thinking about this, or the seed was planted during COVID, during the pandemic. Oh. And so she only recently opened after
I didn't remember that it was that new.
Yeah, it's that new. So we got to the store, and she wasn't there. And it's probably miscommunication. It was definitely miscommunication on my part. So we got there, and so the person working in the store reached out and said, there's two dudes here who want to interview you in the store. And
that's right.
She was on her way to dance lessons with her husband.
Oh, yeah.
And
her partner, her husband, her partner.
Yeah. And so then they said, well, we're going to turn around and come back.
Well, she was thinking,
oh, yeah, that's right.
She needs to be somewhere.
Yes.
We thought, okay, well, we could have gone for lunch or waited around. We were there. We weren't going anywhere.
But it was her partner who said it.
I know. He said no.
What an amazing guy. What an amazing guy. Oh, my gosh.
Those supporters.
Where's the Kleenex box?
The supporters of the knitters in the knitting world. All those other people behind the scenes who say, go to the retreats. Go to the festivals. Open a yarn shop.
That is so
sure
sweet.
you can have sheep on your farm.
That he's a keeper for sure.
He was very nice and,
Well,
very,
and he's
obviously very supportive.
And handsome too.
Well, I remember him sitting there when we were talking outside, and he was
Yeah. So while they were turning around, we went over to the sand dunes, and the sand dunes were gorgeous.
Well, that's
absolutely
what
beautiful.
I was going to say, because I remember because Bouctouche and the water is just there, so we went to the sand dunes.
Yeah, and then after we took a tour,
Was
of
this
that,
where there was like the wooden walkway, and then we went down to the beach and all that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It was so close.
And it was gorgeous.
And it's so interesting because, I'm talking about this history that goes back, several hundred years, and being there, you don't make the connection till like even right now, doing that history, and then I'm thinking Bouctouche, and I remember we were so close to the water, and it was just there, and it was absolutely incredibly stunning, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like the new Waterford Girl. The wind blowing, the wind was really strong, and we were on the beach. It was great.
That's a whole nother story.
So we went back to the store. She was there, and
the new Waterford
Manon was
Girl?
there. Yeah, the new Waterford Girl wasn't there. Manon was there. Manon also drives a Harley Davidson.
I didn't know that, or I don't remember
That
that.
makes sense.
We were having a conversation with her.
She is so much fun.
Well, I was
Oh
kind
my
of doing
gosh.
some videotaping, but so you had some chats that I don't even know
She
about.
is so much. She is somebody when you're at a
She was
festival.
fun.
When you're at a festival, that's who you want to hang out with.
She's cool and
she is so much fun.
I like her because I think we have a kookiness kinship. But okay, I might be a little kooky, but she's fine.
Okay, so enough going on about the store. We'll circle back to that in a second. Let's take a look at it.
Hi there, bonjour mes amis. Nous sommes ici à Bouctouche, Nouveau-Brunswick. On est ici, je ne trouve pas Christopher. We're going into this fabulous yarn shop. It's called La Violette Yarn and Gift Company. And let's go in, and we need to find Christopher and our guests.
Hi, welcome to La Violette.
Hello, what's your name?
My name's Camille.
Camille, enchanté. I'm looking for, I'm supposed to be Christopher, Cowboy Knits, and...
Manon, the owner.
Is it Manon?
I think they're in the back over there.
Okay, let me just, okay, I think I might find them. Where are they? I can see you.
Hello
Hi,
and welcome.
Jamie. How are you? Welcome.
So you found us. We're
Well,
busy reading our new patterns.
We can't hide anywhere, even though we're wearing plaid.
I like that you're matchy-matchy.
We are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who am I sitting here with?
Manon.
Manon.
Yes, I am the owner of La Violette Yarn and Gift Co. in Bouctouche.
It is gorgeous. I love this store.
Thank
it is
you
so
much.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you mind giving us a tour?
I would love to.
Oh,
Come on
fantastic.
up. So we can start from the front here where we
Okay.
have all our local yarn.
Oh, I love looking at the local yarn.
Yes, the whole wall here is all local. So we have the staple of New Brunswick, the
Yes.
Briggs Little.
Yes.
It's a love and hate relationship, but let me tell you, it's a great yarn. It's the oldest mill in Canada as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have yarn that are hand dyed by Francais, handmaiden, lichen and lace.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And they're from Nova Scotia or this?
Well,
the
lichen and
eastern
lace is
province?
all the East Coast.
The
So
East Coast.
lichen and
Excellent.
lace, she is a hand dyer from Sackville, New
Oh,
Brunswick.
yeah.
And Fleece Artist and Maiden, the sister company, they are from Halifax.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah,
And New Brunswick, Briggs Little.
that's right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we just love it. And then we have other hand dyed yarn from Canada.
Mhm.
We have commercial yarn here. Some is hand dyed, imported yarn. We have some for all budgets, all the budgets.
All budgets?
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you want to knit a sweater, you can break the bank.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
And this is like a workhorse for us. It's the Cascade 220.
Yep.
Love this yarn because it's affordable and it's 100% Peruvian wool.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It's beautiful yarn. And this is also Canadian hand-dyed yarn. We have Julie Asselin, we have Ancient Art, Richard de Vries, and Léon Rossi.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we have Quebec, Ontario, and Alberta.
Yes.
Very nice.
And we have baby's corner here, like who's baby in the corner. So we have some of our DK superwash, machine washable blend. Perfect
Oh,
for
that's
babies.
so funny.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
And you've got the little sweaters
we
here.
do.
Those are really nice.
We do, yes. And we have most of our sock yarn at the back here.
Great.
Yeah, sock yarn. And we have Norwegian yarn, stainless yarn
Mm-hmm.
with mohair. I'm addicted to mohair. I can knit everything with that. It's just like, I just want to pat it. It's so nice. Yes. And then we have some more commercial yarn here, and the Julie Asselin cone, the nurtured fine.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. And I notice you've got a lot of sweaters here. Who does all your knitting?
Moi? Most of it, I would say 99% of what you see knitted is knitted by
Oh my
moi.
gosh.
Mhm. Yes. Like this one,
Oh, very nice. Oh, that's really, I didn't see that's,
the back.
that is great.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And Camille is knitting a little bit as well too.
Yeah,
Oh,
She's,
great.
Yeah, she's my great helper, my right hand.
thank you.
Yes.
And so, who's your typical customer? Like, is this a tourist area, or is it mostly locals, or?
It's very touristy. Like we opened the stores during the beginning of COVID, so we didn't know what our clientele would be.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's amazing how it's trendy now. So we have the younger crowd that are coming in because we have nice, higher
Yes,
quality
you've got very nice
hand-dyed
yarn here.
Yes. So they're really attracted to come here. But we also have the older grandma
Yeah.
knitters.
Oh,
so-
that's great.
Yeah.
And so, is this a place to sit?
That's a
And
place
is
to
this-
sit. We have Knit Night, Tricot Jazette, le mercredi. Non, maintenant c'est le jeudi soir.
Thursday, yeah.
Thursday night now.
Oh, great.
Yes, and we do classes, but it's always small groups. We try to keep, with the restriction of COVID.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Let's face it, this space is very small.
But it's well organized. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
really nice.
Thank you.
I like the way it's laid out. That's fantastic.
Thanks.
I've got some questions
Yeah.
for you on patterns.
Yes.
Because I noticed one on the way in. So can we start at the front door and work our way through
Yeah.
and look at your
Yes.
knitting?
Let's do that.
So my eye caught this one because Jamie's been
Wait,
thinking about knitting this
1
sweater.
minute, I'm gonna come around.
Okay.
Oh, Jamie's coming. Yes.
So definitely my eye caught this one as soon as we walked in because I know Jamie has been. This is something he drew actually as a pattern that he was looking
Really?
at. So he's looking at something very similar to this. So it was nice to see this on a wall.
Thank you. This is a pattern by Espace Tricot.
Oh.
And actually, I had a visit from Stephanie this summer, and
Oh,
she was
nice.
so attracted to this sweater right away and took
Yes.
a picture of it. So it's one of their patterns, and we knitted it with Drops Air. And
Okay.
It's color block. So
It is gorgeous.
thank you. And it's so soft. It's just like wearing a cloud.
And
Light.
what is this?
It's Drops
Yeah. is
Air,
it-
alpaca, wool, and polyamide.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
It feels
very
gorgeous.
affordable yarn
Yeah.
as well. And it's chunky, so you start
Yeah.
knitting and then all of a sudden it's finished.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
done.
this hat is knit in air as well, and it's a blown yarn.
Oh yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's
Great.
beautiful.
Very nice. Then you've got shawls over here.
Oh yes. This is my latest, and don't look under it because I still haven't put all the ends in it. There's like ends galore in this one. This is a pattern by Moonstruck Knit,
Mhm.
and it's mosaic knitting, and I'm really, really addicted to
I love mosaic knitting.
Yes, and that's how I start talking to Matt from that hat over there,
Yes.
because I've done one of his patterns, and
Okay.
we start chatting. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and this one is the pressed flower shawl by Amy Christopher.
Mhm.
Favorite knit.
Very
and,
nice.
And dyed yarn, that's commercial yarn, so, a little bit of everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so when did you said you opened just before COVID?
No, we opened in August of 2020,
Okay.
in the middle
Oh,
of
in the
COVID.
middle of COVID.
Yes,
Oh my
so
gosh.
it was hard to get our the world out there to see, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
But slowly, word of mouth and social media and
Yeah.
sharing and really helps.
Well, and you've got a great personality for a yarn shop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So what are you selling most of? What do people, is it,
Hand-dyed yarn, local yarn.
yeah. That makes
Mostly.
sense. That makes sense. in
Yes. Like this summer was, oh my goodness, tourist after tourist, and they want local yarns.
Yeah. Oh, very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when you have so many samples, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get this and that yarn, and where can I get this, and where can I get
Yes.
this, and it really helps.
Oh, the samples definitely,
Yeah.
definitely help. And you've got some more shawls over here.
I do. This is knitted, again, mosaic knitting.
Yes.
I did not do this one. It's one of my friend Nancy Wheeler.
It's nice to have friends like that.
Yes, yes, no kidding. She's a great sample knitter, and it's made with Leon Roxy Basic,
Oh, nice.
so pretty affordable. This is the Inclination Shawl by Andrea Mari,
Mm-hmm.
super nice. That's knitted in Richard Duvray,
Oh, yes.
yes, and it's a DK weight.
Very nice.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jamie, I didn't know you were right behind me.
And then I notice you've got
C'est la lumière parce qu'avec la
You've got-
vitrine.
pillows up. Oh, no, before we get there. This is really nice. Too.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes. That's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
this call is so thick, like it's double layer.
Yeah.
So you knit it in the round like this,
Mm-hmm.
and you start with a provisional cast on,
Oh, okay.
like right there, a
Yep.
little bit. You can still see it. Yeah. I gave up on the bubble at one point because there's supposed to be bubbles everywhere.
But I like it. It's nice.
Yeah, no, I love it, and it's a pattern by Jamie Lomé. I think PW
Okay.
knitting. Yeah.
And then you've got, how do you select your pillows?
Oh, well, on demand, pretty much on demand. There's missing a few. We have one normally that says one more row.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's
Yeah, I
Yep.
think that.
familiar to every
That's,
knitter.
that's
Yep.
right. And the Tonight Darling. So there's a lady from St. Mary, right here, St. Mary de Kent,
Yep.
that prints the pillow for us now.
Oh, nice.
I did some at the beginning, but it's just too much work. I don't have time.
And I thought you did you frame these?
Yes, we did.
It's really smart.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
Well, when we opened the store was pretty empty.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard to open in the beginning during COVID to get supplies. And people would say, yeah, we'll ship it to you. And like 6 months later, we get
Yeah.
stuff. So we really work hard to try to fill up the walls.
And so why a knitting store?
Why not? It's my passion. I love
Yeah.
knitting.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So how long have you been knitting?
I've been knitting about 14 years now. And knitted as a little girl with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
And so what made you pick the needles back up and start knitting?
I walk into my girlfriend's house at Christmas time and she made Christmas stocking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those are beautiful. They were like huge. And she says, yeah, I knitted that. I'm like, really? So I start looking at it. I'm like, I can do that. So I'm like, my goal was for the following Christmas to have one for each member of my family. So I had stocking, hats, sweater, scarf. I made it all.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and
Look
I was
at you.
hooked. I was
Jeez.
hooked, yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And you know, like, first place I went was Michael's and Walmart to get yarn, and then I started being introduced to higher quality
Yes.
yarn, and
Yeah.
then you never turn back after that,
Yeah.
right?
So what's the percentage between knitters and crocheters here?
Probably 90% is knitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have very many crocheter. I wish I can support them more by crocheting myself, but
Yeah.
every time I try, knitting is easier because that's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
This
Thanks for
store
coming.
is so nice. Has a great feel to it as well.
Great.
And your selection of yarn is fantastic. That was one of the main reasons why we wanted to stop in to have a chat with you. Just your selection is great.
Thank you.
You have a beautifully curated store. It's really nice.
Thanks for the compliment. I come back anytime.
Thank
And
you.
I think your spirit and your joie de vivre comes through. and
Absolutely
that
does.
makes the store extra special.
Merci, Jimmy.
Bienvenue.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
that was truly a beautiful, beautiful yarn shop. They've got a great selection of yarn, and I love when they have lots of local yarn.
And I was, as I mentioned, my kinship with Manon. There was another kinship because I started doing the videotaping from the exterior because it's really a very cool, very historical older home, and I love those types of shops that are just so quaint and lovely in this beautiful little house. And so I made my way in, and these two were up to something because they were noses into a very special book that they both had.
Imagine that.
So there was a kinship already.
Definitely.
Created a kinship between the two of them.
Yes, that hat over there.
That hat over there.
This hat, that hat.
So yeah, this hat over here is that hat over there.
It is. And so the funny thing was, well, let's get into the book. We'll get into the review of the book.
Okay.
So Matt Cladney is, if you can find him on Instagram, and that hat over there. And he put out a fantastic book, and it's catching a lot of buzz.
It's catchy.
It's very catchy. And Manon had one of them. And so we were talking back and forth before we went.
Come out? She just was interested and she ordered it, and she didn't know what to expect.
She didn't know what to expect. I want to read what it says, though, on the website. It's that hat over there, sexy folks and knitting patterns.
Sexy folks.
And I would say that is a very accurate description.
No, it's not.
Oh, come on.
I would say it's an understatement.
Oh yeah, it should
There's
be
some great
very
hats.
Sexy folks and
There's some
great
great
knitting
hats.
patterns. Yes. So Matt, maybe you want to make a change there, but it's great. So I was really excited to see this because I kind of knew what to expect. When you go onto Matt's Instagram account, he has a lot of photos with no shirt on and wearing a knitted toque.
Ooh la la.
And some with, even less than that, but there's always a knitted toque. And so it's a great Instagram account. It's fantastic. So I was immediately drawn in and thought I have to have this book when it comes out.
I was drawn in when I opened it from the page 1 to 2. I was drawn in. Those
drawn in.
patterns. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the book. So the book is a series of patterns, hat patterns.
But it also says here, just here, you'll probably put that up, but it says adults only.
It is adults only. It's adult content. Because
We should mention that before anybody just, maybe...
Well, there's also the e-zine as well, so you can get it
E-zine?
Yeah,
This is...
the electronic magazine.
E-zine.
E-zine.
I thought it was something to do with
So-
easy folk.
Because I know that he's almost sold out of this. Well, we don't know if the models are easy or not, but although we do have
I
a
can't believe you said that. It's so inappropriate this day and age. It's 2023. You can't say that.
Although we did have a friend stay over last weekend who may be seeing one of the models this week.
I don't know anything about anything. He doesn't tell me any of these things.
Anyway, so they're running. They've sold incredible success on this,
good.
and it's also available on the e-zine as well. So you can go on the website and find it. But
I'm going to open up. I'm going to start an e-zine.
so you're thinking, what does this have to do with New Brunswick? Well, folks.
Well, you both had the book.
We
and
both
we're
had the
in-
book.
And we're at the shop. We're at La Violette in New Brunswick.
Yes.
And then what happens?
And then what happens? I wanted to knit a hat because not only do you look at the
Oh,
magazine, but
yes.
also wanted to knit a hat. So I was knitting a hat while we were on our trip.
Right, and also because it was colder than we expected.
Yes.
And we didn't even bring a hat, did we?
No, I don't know why.
No, that's part of it too.
But yeah, so the Astoria hat, which is the one on the cover, I knit and in the same color, the green color. And then my son loved it so much.
Oh, that's right.
He wore it the whole time he was here and left with it. So I knit another one.
Well, it fit him, and look, he's, like some younger folk, particular about their, attire, and he loved the hat, so it was his.
But on this one, I actually extended. So the first Astoria hat, I knit exactly the way that the pattern said, and then this one I made a little bit longer on the ears, just to cover my ears.
It fits perfectly.
And so I love it. It's great.
And that wool is
How's my hair?
lovely. Perfect.
Okay.
There we go. And this wool.
Yeah. So this wool is dyed in madder.
I was going to say, looks like madder to me.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's madder. And
Did you dye that wool?
No, I didn't.
No, because you
just
didn't bring it with you. You
Yeah,
picked it up.
no, I picked it up.
I don't even know where you picked it up.
Yeah, I picked it up
Do you remember?
I picked it up at a festival in Quebec on the way back. Rivière de Loup.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I picked it up.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, the book. The book is great. It reminded me of something when I was looking at it because it has a bunch of patterns, has a bunch of models. Some of them are wearing clothes, some of them not wearing clothes.
Or very little.
Or very little. And there was a magazine that was out, and it just actually restarted again in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called Butt Magazine. And this magazine, this is really a collection of all the magazines up to all the first edition. So this magazine
Has a connection to this book?
Yes. Because when I was looking at this,
Confused.
it reminded me of Butt Magazine.
So it only reminded you. There's not
Yeah,
a direct connection.
No, but if you look at this and then you read Butt Magazine.
Well, there's a bit of history and there's models. And
So for people that aren't familiar with Butt Magazine, it has a bunch of interviews in it, like John Waters and other people like that. It's really interesting. It's a pink cover, and then it also has photos of guys who aren't wearing a lot.
yeah, but it's a history. It's a history of what do you call them? Publications from the day.
Yeah.
From way back.
Yes.
So
Yes.
historical publications in the LGBT
Yes.
community. Well, mostly gay.
Yeah.
Gay men's magazines. Pretty
Yes,
much.
sure.
So
Yeah.
there's a history there.
But it also reminded me of, when you were a kid and you're talking to your friends, and your friends would say that their dad has
It's too long.
Playboy or
my
Penthouse
goodness.
magazines,
Oh my goodness.
but they only buy them for the articles. That's what
You
that's
only
what
buy
they-
this for the hat patterns and you only buy this for the articles.
So Manon and I were picking out our favorites in here, and I wasn't sure if we were picking out our favorite pattern or our favorite model. But anyway, it was what I love about this
Oh my
is you
goodness.
can go to the store and buy a pattern book, and you're going to have a pattern. You'll see a bunch of hats and or whatever the patterns are about, but you won't see. This was an interesting and a fresh take on a pattern book, and so. Shout out to Matt for
This is
taking that
true.
perspective. I love that.
I mean,
thought it was great.
let's be honest. We know that this is when we think about if you go back and people think of knitters, traditional knitters, not traditional in the old fashioned way, like male knitters and or knitting for survival gear like socks and hats and mitts and what have you,
Yeah.
sweaters, but traditional women and. What do we know that today? I mean, we know sex sells. Everybody knows that. You go back as far as advertising and television marketing is all about sex. So why not have a little bit of sexiness, put sexy back into knitting? That's what I say.
So he's coming out with another book.
So you go, girl.
So he's coming out with another book, and I think it's on cables, I'm not sure, or color work. I'm not sure, but he's also looking for models.
Christopher.
Jamie.
Cabin Boy Knits.
And-
Well, he's... Oh, come on. Cabin Boy Knits? Really? Have you seen some of the past photos of Cabin Boy Knits and some of his marketing materials? The original Cabin Boy Knits? I'm just the other guy.
I think Jamie would be perfect for this magazine.
I'm just the other guy.
Interested to know your thoughts as well. And also, Matt, if you ever want to do a photo shoot in the woods up here, you can think about that as well.
That would be fantastic. It's,
Yeah.
This rustic,
Yes.
1800s cabin. There could be a lot of history.
Perfect
a lot of
for
history.
shooting cable hats or colorwork hats as well.
Or just rugged, what do you call them? Just rugged colonial
Lumbersexuals?
lumbersexuals. Took the words right out of my mouth.
No, so I recommend this book. I thought it was great.
Oh my god.
We know a number of people who've purchased it, and I've already I've gone through it a million times.
I know. It's already yeah. Patterns.
So and knit a bunch of the hats too, and they're tried and tested. So
Okay.
they work out quite well, and my son loves them. So that's the ultimate test for me.
And
if he wears it, it's a good pattern.
And I'm going to show, I do have a couple of, works in progress, which I'm not going to show them to save for another episode. But I did open up the book because I created my own pattern, because that's what I do. Right? Remember?
Yes.
I create my own patterns like my sweater. I just kind of
But Matt influenced you.
I kind of follow a little something.
Yeah.
Well, I just knitted a series of hats, but I need to know the decrease. There's a way of proper decreasing. So I did it myself at first. I did the counts and the measuring, but I did glance over at this hat to then sort of what am I trying to say, to just make sure I was doing it correctly, or just to learn a little more that I could What am I trying
But
to
that's
say?
but just you're wanting to follow that. Like you want to make sure that they, like for example, if you're looking at the decreases, you know what the decreases are going to look like.
Yes.
But the other thing I wanted to mention was the patterns are very easy to read and easy to follow and short. You know, it's not 12 pages of.
Oh gosh.
It's great. It's short, concise, and very easy to follow. So love that as well.
So I wanted to try to master those decreases. So from what I was doing even counts, but then there's patterns right there. So I wanted to glance and make sure I wanted to get the concept of how it worked, which I already had in my head. I know how to decrease. Yeah. But that's tried and true patterns. So that's why sometimes you just follow a pattern.
Did you say something? Anyway, that was our trip to I would say that was the north part of New Brunswick. And then we headed to the other section, Harvey Station in New Brunswick.
What was in Harvey Station?
Briggs and Little. I was so excited to get to Briggs and Little. That is definitely on my bucket list and is iconic if you're a Canadian knitter.
Absolutely. And not to mention that, when you first started doing a lot of your wool, what was the first, one of the first places that you sourced wool?
Briggs and Little.
Briggs and Little.
Yes.
They're everywhere. They're very well known, and these are the reasons why.
And they're all over Canada. Like if you look at a map of Canada, there you'll see red dots everywhere. They're all over the place. And there's one of the reasons why. Do you want to know why?
I do, because this one's going to tell me a little history that I don't know.
But I want to read the mission
No,
statement.
it's fascinating because...
The mission statement completely sums it up.
Okay.
To create pure wool yarns that are dependable, economical, and meet or exceed our customers' needs and expectations. Your time deserves quality. And that is 100% true. Like every word of that is
Your
true.
time deserves quality. That says it all, because like you say, if you're going to invest that much time, effort into creating something beautiful, something wearable, something durable, there's wool for every occasion. You want quality.
Yeah. And so when we pulled up to the front of the store, I was nervous because I was so excited we were here finally, and I've talked about it with people for years and years and years, and people have said you have to go to Briggs and Little, the store, and so I was so excited.
And we thought about it over and over, and it seems, remember, this is like a 3 days drive that way east, and so you look at a map and you see the province like this, and there's Briggs and Little. It's almost right in the smack center of the. So that was the destination. Yeah, and I've talked to probably Crystal and Heather on the phone, but not Leah. And so Leah was there to meet us and show us everything, and she married into the Little family, and it's a big family, but the name is Little. Yeah, and it is beautiful. You walk into the place, and as soon as you walk in, you're just in a sea of color in the store. They've got a wholesale store right there, and it was beautiful. And the one thing that I noticed, because we parked on the street, and it's still in the same location it's been forever and ever. Yes. Because the river, the stream, which I'm assuming powered the plant probably. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, is right still there next to where there's so much history. Yeah. So I'm going to read some fun facts to you about it. So the first mill was built in 1857. And Briggs and Little has survived 4 fires. Oh my gosh. 4 fires. So they're the phoenix of wool mills, and 2 floods. And I mentioned the river runs next to it, so that had to be where this flooding comes in. So I hope they have insurance for locusts, because gosh. And the name Briggs and Little has been held since 1916. Okay. One sheep produces approximately 3 to 5 pounds of raw wool. On average, 250 wool fleeces are used per day. One day's production averages 600 to 675 pounds of yarn. Holy crap. The type of sheep's wool they use are Suffolk, Dorset, and Cordale. Yeah. We've covered those, but I think we covered Suffolk. I think we have. Well, we'll have to go back into our archives and find out. And you know what's interesting? We'll go deep in the archives about the first 2. Those are very historical, sheep. They're original. They're like their original breed. The Suffolk and the what's the second one? Dorset. Yeah, the Dorsets. Yeah. The Corriedale we covered later, because that was then that was a one of the later breeds with mating them and creating the Corriedale. Yeah, and the other thing is that they get a lot of their wool from the Canadian Cooperative Wool Growers in Carleton Place, Ottawa. All very local, which is great. Very Canadian, very local. And the price point is incredible for it's just incredible. And so you have to buy their yarn when you're there. Well, the thing is, like you say, when we walked in, there's a whole wall from floor to ceiling, and just every color you can think about, vibrant colors, muted colors, pastels, dark, rich, just color, and more color. And Leo was just a wealth of knowledge to walk us through, and gave us a great tour. And when I got there, the size of the
equipment, when you look around, was just, we were both in awe. Like, we've been to mills before, but not at this scale. It was absolutely incredible.
I couldn't believe it, because we've been to a few where, oh gosh, like downsize the machinery by, half, or less than half.
Yeah.
And also, not only did we have a tour, it's because they don't do tours anymore. They used to do tours, but if you think about moving equipment, and as a child, everybody must have taken tours of factories at one time or another. Myself, growing up in Sudbury, it was the local milk factory, and there's a lot of moving parts, bottles flying here and there. But this machinery, the size, as high as I said, this is big machinery. So you think about when they did do tours, and school children, teenagers, what have you, I would be like, there's a lot of liability going on there, as I'm thinking, because even with yourself, you've got to be, and watch your back, like, oh, what is that? And back into some other moving part.
Yeah.
So we had a special tour,
and
which was wonderful.
Leah allowed us to play in the wool room, where they blew the wool, and we were covered in wool. It was fantastic. One of the things that I noticed though, with all of the employees, everybody was happy. Like, there was the sense, like, it's such a good vibe in there, and everybody was incredibly friendly, but just super nice and collegial to one another. Like, it was really it had a wonderful family atmosphere.
Well, and the thing is too is everybody's known each other. They've all worked there and they're highly trained, because everybody has a very specific, very important role. And like you're saying, for all of that machinery, there's all these moving parts.
Yeah.
These folk are a part of those moving parts, and everyone has a very specific, important role that runs one piece of equipment to the next phase, to the next, to the next, to the next, to produce this. But all on that massive scale. So when you see those photos we have of us, these vats, they're not even vats, they were just big giant cages, and they had this whole system, duct system that, the fleece is going from there and filling rooms, literally these rooms that had 30-foot ceilings?
Yeah, it was incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah. And we got to meet her husband as well.
And I want to mention,
and the two kids.
We did.
One of them is out, but the two of the sons were there as well.
Yeah. And also, the one thing that I remember that really shocked me was, remember when we first walked in, there was that whole area of a room, which was probably 30 feet by 20 feet by about, 4 or 5 feet high, and it was this massive layers of fleece, which I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And we talked about that, because these massive layers of fleece, like this, one color like this, imagine 30 feet long, layers like this of 5 different colors, and this is going to be working its way through that machinery. It gives you the idea of the size.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that when you think of paint and color, and coloring like what we do, to create a color, you mix colors together, right? Like, it's only natural, like our way of color to get, you want to get purple, red, you do red and blue. But in this case, the layers and the layers of fleece, when they process them through the machine, create the very specific colors. And some of them,
you're right, that was very cool.
And the historical colors go back from day one. They still follow, most of these are historical colors they've been creating from the get-go.
Yeah.
They've introduced new ones over the years, not many. They stick to the tried and true and these very specific colors.
Yeah.
But the blending of the fibers creates visually, and it's sort of like when we talked about, with Kirk Dunn with his cushion and the it's like pointillism, where you don't actually have the color green, but you have blue and yellow dots.
That's exactly what it's like.
And and the eye focuses in, and when you look, it's green.
Yeah.
But if you look close, it's blue and yellow specks.
Yeah.
So imagine this fiber going through these mills and mixing it up, and it creates a color. I was fascinated.
Yeah, it was incredible. And just learning about the history of it and seeing the giant machinery, walking through the store, it was just incredible. But you also got to feel like they've had a huge impact on the lives of Canadians over the years. Given the amount, but just think about when they started, how many lives they've impacted, because people knitting with their yarn. And again, it goes back to their mission statement. They're economical. They're affordable. People can afford their yarn, and it's warm and it's good yarn. And it makes like how many Canadians have had mittens or socks made out of Briggs and Little yarn? It's incredible.
If you think back to late 1800s, until today, and there would have been knitters back then, and producing, and it would have been for a survival.
Yeah.
Back then, I mean, hats, mitts, sweaters. That's something. The
Functional.
wool was functional, and it was needed. It was a much needed product, and the economy of the province. They would have employed. Always had an employment with people in the area. So a very large part of history and part of the fiber, no pun intended, of the community and the province.
And and especially like everybody knows Briggs and Little. And again, just think about when you go through the roots of Canadians, how many people have been touched by Briggs and Little. It's incredible.
Yeah. So we were lucky enough to have had a personal tour.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody explaining their part in what it is they did, machinery going, running, and just fascinating tour that we were so lucky to be a part of.
And here's an example of just how wonderful they are. So, though they did give us a gift bag that was super nice and I wasn't expecting. So do you want to go through that now?
Yes. Briggs and Little. They gave us a couple of these, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah. One each.
One each. And?
You pull out.
No, you go ahead. I don't know what to pull out. What's in there? Oh, are your dirty underwear in there? Sorry.
No, they're antibacterial.
Are there any wool? Are there any wool underwear in here? Ooh.
So this was a nice sweater that we received. A hoodie with the Briggs and Little logo on it.
Very nice.
Did you knock something over? And I've been sporting all episode the Briggs and Little mug.
Beautiful.
Yep.
I love that. It has it's that look of that antique tin, but it's actually, very nice. It's not tin, it's, And then what do we have?
Oh, nice. A mug.
Briggs and Little, fantastic. One of those everybody needs
travel mugs.
Travel mugs. Well, I haven't even opened it yet.
No, we're saving it for the episode.
I know. Briggs and Little mug. What else do we have here? Oh.
And a bag of all kinds of things. There's a tape measure. There's a Briggs and Little button. There's 2 candies. There's a measuring tape. All things that you need. Every knitter needs.
Oh, a little. Oh, well.
Oh, and
I love it. Is it a coffee warmer or a beer cooler?
I think it's whatever you make. It's versatile.
It's versatile.
Oh,
fantastic.
and this is great too. Do you know what this is?
Sometimes when I need to figure out what needles I need, I just look at it and I say, I like those fat ones, like the one I used for my work in progress and my finished objects, which I'll show you next time. I just like the fat needles. But if you stick them in there, you'll actually get a measurement.
And you'll actually know. Oh, and there's Briggs and Little labels.
Love
That's great. I have something that I'm working on that I can use that.
With the Briggs and Little.
Yeah, so that's great. And pencils and whatnot. So that's really nice.
A whole little kit.
And
of course, which we saved,
calendar.
Even though we're already 2 months in. Remember when? Briggs and Little.
Calendar.
They'd probably been, it'd be lovely. Could you imagine? If they would have been, like calendars were always a huge thing from way back, turn of the century. So could you imagine if they had a collection of all of the calendars?
Oh, wow.
Well,
they probably do.
They'd have hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Probably. And that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful in the bag. That's fantastic. And we could not leave the store without buying some yarn. And so I bought some yarn. I think I was talking to Jamie about this, but I just want to show you again. Now these are the socks that I knit out of their yarn. I love them. They're great.
They're so good. I'm going to tell you how good they are. I love the pattern. I love the wool. I love the fluorescent orange.
Yes.
These were so well done that I thought they were just a store-bought pair, and the first time I washed them, I threw them in the dryer.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
I didn't tell them that because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm like, those are so freaking nice.
I thought my feet grew.
No, they're fine because, wool stretches to like, back in shape.
Did you put them in the dryer as well? The washer and dryer?
Well, no, I may have. I don't remember because I thought they were just, a pair
We'll have
of-
to stretch them.
a
We'll have to
pair-
wet them and stretch
No,
them.
they're perfect. I did that. It only happened once. They're beautiful. Such perfection.
And we bought some more yarn. Some interesting colors.
And is my yarn in there?
I don't know, Jamie. Did you put your name on it?
Well, I had yarn and the pattern for the mitts.
Is this the knit pattern? Yes. There you go.
Trying to claim my stuff. you bought a whole bunch of stuff, but I don't even remember which ones mine are. That is part of it because
This is part of yours for sure.
But were there not two colors? Is it the gray in that? Because I don't remember. Because they have this traditional mitt pattern that's supposed to be very simple to do. I like simple. And I'm going to knit myself
I don't even know where to go with that
the
one.
mitts. Well, if I can't figure it out, I just make up my own pattern and it turns out wonderfully every time.
So I bought this gray and I bought the fluorescent orange.
Yeah, fantastic.
We've got autumn colors. And
I love these
then you
two
must have
colors.
Yeah.
This rust is absolutely stunning, and this ochre, deep rich yellow, fantastic.
And then
Love it.
the other thing, so the big purchase for me was roving. I did not go there
Do you know why you bought this? You don't remember.
By what? By what?
This orange.
To make pumpkins. Yes.
Because it was getting close to that time of
Yes.
year, and you can knit these little pumpkins.
Yeah.
And that would be the reason for the orange.
Okay, so now I'm really, really excited about talking about my
Are you?
next project, which is a work in progress, and which was purchased there using the roving. And I don't knit with roving very often
Why is it called roving?
because it hasn't been made into a hank or a skein of yarn
What do you
yet.
mean?
So I'm making a sweater. And
It's very much like a traditional Canadiana sweater, isn't it?
yeah. So there's the back of the sweater.
Mhm. These are Canadian maple leaves down at the bottom, Canada.
And then
It's so fantastic. And you were thinking this didn't take you time
I
much
haven't
time at
blocked
all
it yet.
because you haven't blocked it yet, and you still have to. But
Here's
because
an arm.
of the because of the gauge, is it the gauge of the yarn?
yeah,
This was just like this whipped up in no time, didn't it?
yeah. And this is an arm.
So you just do them all in parts and then you stitch them together. Is that how
Yes.
it's going to work?
Yeah, so I have.
And this is the. So
I'm
that's
pretty
the
much
back.
finished.
Oh, that's the back, and these are the two
That's the two panels for the
two
front.
front panels.
Yeah, so like this.
Oh. And then do you have to put?
And there'll be a zipper on the front,
That seems complicated to me.
and then
Zipper and the sleeves.
and the sleeves. Yeah, which I just have one sleeve left to do, and then the collar.
Oh.
And then I just
fantastic.
stitch them all together, and then put a zipper on it, and it's done. So
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
really,
that-
really excited. You know how much I love these types of sweaters.
That's gorgeous, and it's going to be so warm. And this what is this?
That's a deer.
Is it deer?
Yeah,
Okay. I was going to say,
Yeah.
is it elk? Is it deer?
sure.
I
Yes
could
to
see
all
where
of the above.
I could see the antlers.
Yeah.
It's
So
very,
so I'm really excited about this. Happy to show you when it's done.
very Canadian.
I'm really excited. I love these types of sweaters.
Yep.
So
And a great pattern to follow.
a great pattern to follow as well.
Just whip that up in no time.
So I would highly recommend check out their site. This is called I think Canadian Proud, and so the pattern's on there for free, and check out their yarn as well. And I think they ship all over the world. And
Sure they do.
They've got an amazing price point, and it's great yarn, and you can do so many great things with it.
Yeah.
So check them out, and we loved it. That's that, and we're going back. Do you want me to tell you why they're going back?
We are?
Yes. So I had a chat with Lee. I felt sick to my stomach when I was calling. I was so upset because we went there to interview them, and I lost all of the interview. My system had crashed and I lost everything. And so I called Lee, and she said, "Oh well, you just have to come back again." And I was just.
And we had some.
I was sitting here with this pit, the knot in my stomach, and she was so nice and just said, just come back.
And that's never happened before. Because,
it's never happened.
And the fact that we had that
oh my God, I was so upset.
that private tour when they don't do tours, it was very upsetting, and it was very special, and we had a lot of live footage, that sort of thing. But you'll still able to see the mill, and our experience of being there. We mentioned it was wonderful, and we thanked them for that tour.
It was amazing. It was a dream come true, really, for me. Like, people talk about going to Disney World. I'd like going to. I'd rather go to Briggs Little. It's my Disney World. It was just amazing. Just seeing how everything's made and all the history that's there. It was incredible.
It was absolutely.
So thank you so much for taking the time to walk us through that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just start by saying New Brunswick has a very important history in, for one, the French settlement, the Acadians, and the creation of the Dominion of Canada. Mm-hmm. So New Brunswick was originally part of the larger area, which is a French colony known as Acadia. And this area dates back as far as Jacques Cartier, French explorer who first explored that area in 1534. He actually put up a cross in the Gaspé peninsula of Gaspésie, which had the French coat of arms claiming the land for France. Now he explored the Baie des Chaleurs, which is still called Chaleur Bay to this day. He named it Baie des Chaleurs. Now, Baie des Chaleurs, if you go south from the Baie des Chaleurs, there is the territory of New Brunswick. So now, skip ahead many years to 1604. Sumner de Champlain makes his way to this area where he establishes the very first organized French settlement. And this is on Ile Sainte-Croix. And this was in Passamaquoddy Bay. Passamaquoddy Bay is an inlet in the Greater Bay of Fundy. So there were about 79 settlers, French settlers, and they wintered over the island when they landed. Now, some of them didn't survive, but from the get-go, they made kinship and friendship with the local native population. And that's important because you'll see in the history how this is very important. So he established the colony, which was soon afterwards, the following year, because they were on this island. Well, they made their way just across the bay to Port Royal. And Port Royal today is Annapolis Royal in Nova Scotia, which we landed. We visited Port Royal. Yep. So this is where they then established. So this is pretty much the center of Acadia. But long before that, I will mention that, yes, these areas were populated by the indigenous peoples of Canada, including the Mi'kmaq, the Malecite, and the Passamaquoddy in those areas specifically. So now we jump ahead once again, because during this time, of course, the British made their way there. The Mi'kmaq and the local natives from the area were always allies of the French. And this is very strategic and important because now you have these conflicts between the British and the French. These went on for about 150 years. It's a huge part of history. So everybody wants to sort of control the area, New France and the British. And so many, many wars. One in particular, we're talking about early 1700s. And the British are trying to take over parts of Acadia, and they do so. They conquer some of these areas. There's different names for all these different wars. And so this is the early 1700s. So in retaliation, or just to try to regain some of the control or keep some of the control of Acadia, France builds several forts in the northern part of New Brunswick, where I mentioned, and one in particular is called was called Fort Beauséjour. Beauséjour means agreeable stay or a happy visit, beau séjour.
Yep.
You use that word to say, oh, did you have a beau séjour? You had a nice time, a nice stay. And so this fort, beau séjour, and its strategic location was on this isthmus. And an isthmus is just a narrow piece of land that has ocean on the both sides, and it connects to Nova Scotia. And Nova Scotia was a direct route to where they built the fortress of Louisbourg. And we covered Louisbourg way back when. It was a gigantic fortification, the fortress of Louisbourg, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. So now you jump ahead again, because what happened to this in this time with Acadia is very crucial. Because what happened with beau séjour, a lot of the Acadians, they were a specific group of people. There were French who lived at Louisbourg and other French, but they were called the Acadians because of this colony of Acadia, which covered an entire area, which included Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, parts of Quebec, because Quebec is just to the north of New Brunswick, and also northern parts of Maine. That entire area was Acadia. So there were constant uprisings. There were the Acadians and even when they conquered territories, the Acadians, along with the local indigenous people, they fought and they had skirmishes and mini wars, let's say, and conflicts to just keep their areas, and they sort of all lived that's just the way it was. Constant back and forth. They live in peace for some time. They conquer small areas with these smaller wars and skirmishes. But then what happened was very important: the 7 Years' War. The 7 Years' War was basically a war that between 1756 to 1783, if I'm correct.
That's 7 years.
No, 1756 to 1763.
Okay, that's still.
And
7
I'll tell you why the confusion afterwards. So the 7 Years' War is between England, Spain, and France. Spain and France are allies. The British also had an ally in Germany because of their aristocratic royal connection that goes way, way back, and the territories within Europe. So this is about the colonies. France had the colonies, of course, in the New World, New France. They also had colonies in the Caribbean, which would be islands that are still French territory today, like Guadeloupe and Martinique. The Spanish, they had colonies. They had large colonies.
Yeah.
North America, South America, in Asia, the Philippines. They also had islands in the Caribbean, but they also had Louisiana and parts of Florida. Mm-hmm. So they had an interest there as well. So they were allies with France. So what happens here with the 7 Year War is the English, of course, many skirmishes and wars, pretty much conquer Acadia, and now they signed the Treaty of Paris, the first Treaty of Paris in 1763. It's British territory, and the Acadians then, it gets not so nice, is beginning in 1755 with those first skirmishes when they took over the fort at beau séjour. They also, when they captured the fortress of Louisbourg, and a lot of the Acadians and Mi'kmaq were captured there as well, knowing that they're fighting for France. These Acadians were fighting directly for France with the other French. So began the deportation. The Great Deportation, there's many names for it. They were exiles, sent and deported. Now, there were over 14,000 Acadians in the area. 11,000, roughly just over 11,000 were deported. 5,000 of the Acadians perished in starvation, disease, and shipwrecks. Shipwrecks, I'll explain. They were first sent to the British colonies, the 13 colonies, which later became U.S. states later along the eastern coast. They were sent there, and some of them were sent as far south, very, very far south along the eastern coast. They were put to work. They were given shelter and put to work on plantations. Others, not so lucky, were sent. They were sent back on ships towards British territories in Britain and back to France. Some of those ships never made it. So
some of these people
hundreds
had never necessarily been to France before, because the Acadians.
No,
and so they're sent back to France.
and Britain.
For
which,
those of the who
as
made it.
prisoners,
Yeah.
I would imagine. Some of them were prisoners. I mean, they don't say that specifically, but they're prisoners of war. They're shipped off and deported. So towards the end, after the treaty, 1763, and when we get later after that, we're getting towards the end of the 1700s. Well, now it's the American Revolution. But during that time, I want to just explain. During that time, those who escaped, and they burnt the village. The villages were burnt, destroyed. Their crops, their churches were burnt to the ground, destroyed. So the British would just take over those lands. But shortly afterwards, some of them escaped. Some of them escaped north inland into New Brunswick because it was uninhabited. So they
Sure.
isolated themselves, and many hundred fled south to Louisiana, which we know to this day in Louisiana. Remember, they were allies of France, so it was friendly territory. Some of them made their way down there. The Acadians, Acadiens, Cajun. The Cajuns of Louisiana,
Yep.
which you want to know the history altogether of that. We know there's a French connection there, and
Yep.
that's les Acadiens, Cajun.
Well, oftentimes when we wear the hat, when I wear the Quebec hat with the fleur de lis on it,
Yes.
people will ask me if I'm a New Orleans Saints fan.
This would explain the New Orleans.
Yeah.
I know. I've been asked that
Yeah.
question before, and I said, well, no, it's the French fleur de lis. It's Quebecois.
Yeah.
And it's the French emblem. So that's interesting. So those who fled to Louisiana as well. But then what happens is the American Revolution in 1775?
I think
1775 to this is where the 1783 comes in, to 1783. So what happens there is, of course, the American Revolution, the British lost. And so what happens next is, during that time as well, after the 1763 treaty, there is the Treaty of Paris of 1783. So during that time, the Acadians, there were still Acadians in the northern parts and who had fled, and they were okay to be welcomed back to their areas and claim their territories, which some made their way back eventually. Once now, this is all British control, but they were, the French, they allowed them to come back if they wanted to continue their culture and what have you.
Sure.
But then you had over 14,000 loyalists loyal to the British throne who fought in the American Revolution, and of course they lost. They fled to British territory, which was Acadia. They made their way to St. John, New Brunswick, at the mouth of the St. John River. And again, it's all the land, the important land is along the waterways. So what happens next, you have the loyalists and you have the French Acadians, who some returned. How are they going to get along? They're not going to get along. But the British were given preferential treatment, so they were given lands and land grants and special privileges, but not the Acadians. So the Acadians were like, enough of this already. They still made their way north into the province of New Brunswick. So by this time, the British decide, okay, the loyalists were not happy. They wanted their own territory. So the British ruling decided that they were going to create 3 colonies. So they created New Brunswick, Cape Breton and Nova Scotia, and also parts of Prince Edward Island. And those became the colonies.
Oh.
And so New Brunswick, towards the end of, now we're moving forward. The Acadians are back into between the late 1700s, early 1800s. A lot of them made their way there, Dutch, other immigrants, but mostly it remained British territory.
Sure.
And one thing I want to mention that also brings it to today's history is the fact that New Brunswick, I want to mention the Revolutionary War, because during the American Revolution, someone of importance made their way to St. John along with the Loyalists, and that was Benedict Arnold.
Oh.
People American friends know Benedict Arnold. He was American, fought with the British. I don't know the whole story, but what I do know is that after the war, Revolutionary War, he made his way to Britain. He fled to Britain. Not so welcome there because, he's on the fence. American, British. What do they call him?
He's a Benedict Arnold.
He's a Benedict Arnold. So he makes his way. Where does he make his way? To St. John, New Brunswick. There he regained his riches. He became a very successful merchant, made a lot of money. But then, as the crooked do, he became indebted People were after him. He owed a lot of debt. He fled once again back to Britain. And that's the end of Benedict Island. So now we have New Brunswick. And New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. What happens in 1867? We talked about it. And why I'm bringing this all together, Acadia? Because we made our way from Prince Edward Island to Nova Scotia to New Brunswick. We covered Confederation. New Brunswick was one of the founding colonies, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Upper Canada and Lower Canada, Quebec and Ontario got wind of that. They all met Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and Canada, the Dominion of Canada was formed in 1867 on July 1st. And New Brunswick was one of these founding colonies, the creation of Canada.
Excellent.
And the last thing I want to mention is that the French established and remained, and it survives. 1/3 of the New Brunswick population speaks Francophone. They had the Official Languages Act in 1969, along with many other organizations since, to have kept and created their French established areas. One of them being Bouctouche. We talked about Bouctouche.
Yes.
We talked about names which are still native names like Aruktuk and Petit Kodiak and Shediac, all with native names and all very, very much French.
Just like La Violette and Manon.
Manon Drolet. Who, when we arrived there, I had no idea about.
But we didn't say, when we say there, people don't know what we're talking about.
Bouctouche.
Yes, Bouctouche.
Which I didn't know about Bouctouche.
No.
And here we were in the very heart of the French established area of central Acadia, which has so much history.
Yeah.
And could I do one more thing?
Yes, you can.
Without getting,
Jamie, definitely.
I'm going to try not to get emotional, but that's my
Hold on,
French
so
roots.
what time is it in, in the
It's,
episode?
we cover so much history here.
Yes.
And
And we always forget our
and I'm French Canadian,
Phoenix.
and my roots are
Phoenix.
French Canadian, and also I have Métis native roots.
Yes.
My culture and my French culture. And there's so much French history within Canada, even though it became, a British country overall. And this is why we picked up a little something from l'Acadie. And I have 2 cups because this one was fun. And it says here, worry pas, la vie est belle. So it's like a franglais, which is French English expression. Oh, worry pas, don't worry, life is beautiful. So my work in progress, it's just beginning. It's going to be in panels, and I'm just doing it top of mind because that's what I like to do. You know who inspired me to do that?
The panels or this whole
No, just
secret surprise?
to knit, just to knit from here and just knit.
I do
and
know. Somebody told you that and I can't remember who it is.
It's Sylvia Olson.
Oh, right.
Because when she came to Couch and Sweaters, in the day, there's a way of doing it. You just start knitting. You just knit and you follow and you use logic and you use some measurements and you use, you know how to decrease, increase. And if you do them in sections, just like that sweater, you could create. So I'm creating something and it's top secret information.
So you can't tell anyone?
No, but I'm just going to show one of the panels.
No, not you. I'm talking to the viewers. They can't tell. You said it's top secret. So they can't share this.
Well, they can't share, but I'm not going to share the details either.
Okay.
So they won't
What are you talking about?
This.
Okay.
So what we have here is a panel that's going to be part of a garment, and for a very special upcoming event in the next couple of months. So it's the first panel.
May?
It is in May. So this is very special yarn. We have most of the outfit is going to be in Wensleydale.
Yes.
And super soft Wensleydale, very buzzy, and I had to match it with some of our own dyed yarn because part of it's going to be in indigo blue and part of it's going to be this beautiful color, and we'll talk more about it. I'll talk more about where it's from when the time comes. The wool is special from the wool we picked up at Rhinebeck.
Ooh.
Okay, so this, I don't want to mess it up anymore. It's partially felted. as
And
you can
naturally
see,
dyed.
And naturally dyed. All naturally dyed. It's incredible. It's one entire fleece of the sheep.
Wow.
And I don't want to see. I want to keep it intact.
Yeah.
It's very delicate. It's beautiful. It's going to
Looks
be
like a
part.
wig almost.
It's going to be part of this garment. As you see, I used the Wensleydale there, and it's from Windsong, and we picked it up at Rhinebeck. And I just had to have it. So I thought, I'm going to do something with this. And I told them when it's done, I'm going to send them the photos of the finished garment. So stay tuned. More to come on this topic.
Excellent. Great. Well, I can't wait to see how this develops. Because you whipped this thing up I cannot believe how quickly you did this. I'm really excited to see the final product.
And I love, the idea, it's like the hats that I'm going to show you next time. But I love to create, what's interesting is, people follow patterns. And this is what I learned from Sylvia Olsen. Because, we're so used to, when you're creating something, and you think in the old days, they didn't have patterns. They made something to fit. They measured me and thought, this looks like it can fit. And what I've been doing measuring, and it's like I did with those hats and what I did with my sweater, is as I went along, you have the luxury to put it up against you. And I thought, add a bit here, add a bit there, change a bit here, change a bit there. And with this as well, patterns are so, they're meant to be interpreted, but you would not normally have these two combined in one continuous pattern.
Yep.
Because here you have worsted weight and here you have chunky, but it's giving the texture to what I'm going to do here. So you're going to have this body of work here with this lacy looking. I didn't change needles. This is where the fat needles came in because I knew I wanted to have this look like this. And it's exactly how I imagined it in my mind.
But the locks will also look great. This is textured. And
yes,
it'll look
it's going to be textured,
locks.
and we're going to have these locks are going to be integrated, some of the locks, so it'll match this part.
I can't wait to see it.
So anyway, it's all up here, and it's going to be a full presentation when it's finished.
Fantastic. I'm feeling very good, very generous right now.
Generous how?
Well, after all the good talk, I'm so excited about this. I was excited about talking about the yarn shops and Briggs Little, and I think we should do a giveaway.
Oh, okay. What are we doing?
We are doing, I think, for those of you who are paying attention, to send in the year that Briggs Little was first established.
Okay. Because that was one of the most important destinations in the tour, to go to, a mill, as you mentioned. And it's got such history, such Canadian history. I've got a project that I need to do, which I didn't get started with the mitts. You've got your sweater on the go. So that would be a really good question. So what are they're going to answer the question.
There's 3 questions.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not that.
So that was the first one.
Okay, the first one is, when was it established? Second one is, what is the name of the store?
The store
that we went to
in Bouctouche.
In Bouctouche. And the third one is, what is the name of the book we reviewed?
Oh, the book.
Yes, and you have to get all 3 right, and then we will randomly draw a name from the individuals who get 3.
What are they going to be getting?
They're going to be some yarn.
Yarn.
Yes,
and maybe some Briggs and Little. What do you call it? Swag.
Briggs and Little swag, and some Briggs and Little yarn, because I bought a lot of it, and there might be a Cabin Boynton's yarn in there as well.
Okay. So, that's very exciting.
Yes, very exciting.
We haven't done that in a while.
We haven't done that in a while, so I'm looking forward to your comments, and we'll put the questions again in our comment section as well.
So all in all, New Brunswick, what do you think?
I loved it. I can't wait to go back to New Brunswick.
And there are 2 reasons, because I want to go back into more of the Acadian territory, which was beautiful. We didn't do enough along the Bay of Fundy, the historical roots that have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. Go back to Briggs and Little. So much to do, so much to see. I'm looking forward to doing that once again.
I could live there too. That's another place. And
en français, s'il vous plaît. I'll be able to communicate for you.
You will. That's right.
But you know what I like about that is sometimes I don't have to tell them exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah, he likes to play around. So, anyway, thank you so much for watching. We wish you a very wonderful week and look forward to talking to you soon.
À la prochaine, mes amis francophones et français. Je vous aime.
Bye bye.
Tous. And I want to do one more thing, which I want to dedicate this poem, which is very important This is the poem, and it's called Evangeline. Evangeline, a tale of Acadie. This is by an American poet, Henry Longfellow. So I'm starting it with the murmuring pines, bearded with moths, with voices sad and prophetic, stand like harper's whore. Loud from its rocky caverns, the deep-voiced ocean speaking, and in accents, answers the wail of the forest. But where are the hearts that beneath it leaped when he hears in the woodland the voice of the huntsman? Where is the thatched-roofed village, the home of Acadian farmers, darkened by shadows of earth, but reflecting an image of heaven? Waste are those pleasant farms, and the farmers forever departed. Seize them and whirl them aloft, and sprinkle them far over the ocean. Naught but tradition remains of the beautiful village of Grand Prairie. Ye who believe in affection that hopes and endures and is patient, ye who believe in the beauty and strength of a woman's devotion, list to the mournful traditions still sung by the pines of the forest. List to a tale of love in Acadie, home of the happy.
Wow, that's great. Very good.